CTV News with Maya Johnson.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. It was a shocking scene of violence in a Montreal North Walmart. A young man was brutally stabbed during an altercation with a group of teens. He later died in hospital. Montreal police have now arrested 4 boys, all of them 15 years old. Olivia O'Malley reports.
This Montreal North Walmart was the scene of a fatal stabbing. It happened while shoppers were inside. Niham Khaled was there with his mom.
I saw someone was on the ground and then someone was running from Walmart employee to get the bag of first aid kit and everything.
It happened in the big box store near Henri Bourassa and Lacour Boulevards. Khaled says he saw a group of teenagers run out of the store.
I thought it's just teenagers being teenagers because that's how they are, just run around. But then maybe like a minute later, I heard like someone scream.
Police say a 22-year-old man was stabbed in the upper body with a sharp object during an altercation with a group of individuals. He was taken to hospital where his death was confirmed. A source tells CTV News the victim is Giovanni Ray Robbins. 24 hours after his death, police say they arrested 4 15-year-old boys.
There was a lot of witnesses that was inside that business and outside, so with all the information that were obtained, we were able to identify those 4 teenagers.
Police say the motive remains unclear. The Walmart has since reopened for business, but shoppers say they are feeling uneasy.
We are shocked, and we hope it never happens again.
This mother says she is considering buying her groceries elsewhere because she often brings her children here.
I will be scared to death because my 3 kids are my life, so I will be scared to death.
Other Montreal North residents say there has been a rise in youth violence.
This area is a little bit violence, yes.
We see this thing quite often with young people.
The Major Crimes Unit is in charge of the ongoing investigation. Police say it's Montreal's 9th homicide of the year. Olivia O'Malley, CTV News.
A 22-year-old man was shot and killed last night in Turin Park in Villeray. Police were called after shots were fired around 10:30 p.m. The man was pronounced dead at the scene. It is Montreal's 10th homicide of the year. And a 33-year-old man is dead after he was shot in his car in Laval. It happened around 8:30 this morning on Pilardi Street in the Auteuil neighborhood. First responders tried to revive the victim, but he was pronounced dead in hospital. The SQ has taken over the investigation. Also in Laval, a school was closed today after a driver smashed into the building overnight. Police were attempting to pull the driver over, but the car kept going. Minutes later, the driver slammed into the side of Charles Perrault Elementary School on De la Concorde Boulevard. The 18-year-old was treated in hospital and now faces criminal charges. And the Coast Guard was called in to help retrieve a personal watercraft after it stalled off of Ile Bizarre last night. The man who was riding it swam to shore and knocked on somebody's door to ask for help. He was eventually able to retrieve his Sea-Doo at a dock near Cap Saint-Jacques. Well, artificial intelligence can be helpful with everyday tasks, including translating material in various languages. But sometimes it can make mistakes, and they can be very embarrassing. As Stéphane Jamou explains, the STM found out the hard way.
Bishop Street in Montreal is believed to be named after 19th century Anglican bishop Francis Fulford, except in Montreal's 747 bus line has been rechristened Bishop, as in a honey store, and it created a negative buzz at the STM.
So yes, we're using AI probably in many places. Probably sometimes we need to have some supervisor in there. In that case, it didn't happen.
The STM says it will rectify the sign, but it couldn't explain why its map wasn't proofread in the first place. Examples of questionable translations abound in the city. Take the street Prince of Wales in NDG. A local contractor made a huge blunder by calling it Prince of Wales.
We don't see any whales or any sea around here. You know what I'm saying? So
I don't even think it's somebody's humor. It's somebody's illiteracy.
Now, the sign might be funny, but for a lot of people, it's also a sign that we're relying way too much on artificial intelligence.
This story is a perfect example of why AI cannot be trusted to fully take over from humans anytime soon. It makes mistakes, it hallucinates, it lies, it confabulates.
An embarrassment, too, for professional translators who are being replaced by AI.
We do check, we do verify the translation. So it's even more than proofreading, because you have to check the terminology, the technical terminology. Is that the right words, the right syntax, the right grammar, everything?
Proof, she says, that humans still have the edge when it comes to common sense. Stéphane Giroux, CTV News.
Quebec is moving to expand the French language charter, and it could affect up to 27,000 students. Sweeta Rassi has more.
That's Quebec's French language minister, Jean-François Roberge, officially tabling Bill 8, expanding the province's charter of the French language to adult education programs and vocational training. Under the proposed bill, 27,000 students studying in English will have to move to the French sector.
Le français est vulnérable.
Roberge, along with Education Minister Sonia Lebel, says this bill will not apply to the province's so-called historic Anglophone community. Instead, it focuses on newcomers and immigrants whose first language is neither French nor English, most of whom live in Montreal.
We want to entice them to learn in French.
Reaction from the English school boards were swift. Joe Ortona is the president of the Quebec English School Boards Association.
You're going to have a dropout rate that's going to go up. You're going to have more unemployment, and you're going to have a terrible impact on Quebec's economy.
Ortona says 14,000 students are enrolled in these programs. This bill could lead to funding cuts and eventual program closures. The Lester B. Pearson School Board chairperson says she wants to see the bill scrapped entirely.
I imagine there are a lot of students who would just be full of fear that they could not cope in the French system.
Meanwhile, the English Parents Committee Association of Quebec is also pushing back, saying Quebec can still protect the French language and provide access to education that meets basic needs. The CAQ says there will be a transition period, which means the new rules won't come into effect until 2028. And that's if the bill gets passed. The National Assembly ends on June 12th, with the provincial election looming in the fall. Sweeta Rassi, CTV News, Quebec City.
Montreal police are looking for 3 men who simulated a public execution of Labour Minister Jean Boulet. The men used a mock guillotine to decapitate a papier-mâché effigy of Boulet. It happened on May 2nd during International Workers' Day demonstration in Place des Festivals. Investigators have released photos of 3 male suspects. The perpetrators could face charges of uttering death threats and criminal harassment.
It's not black or white, but definitely one thing is for sure. Using a simulation of a public execution is not a good way of doing things. And the Montreal police will have an eye on that. And we will warn the protest organizers that they should not be using that type of means to express themselves. And if they do, they are walking on a fence. Mm-hmm. And they can quickly fall on the side of becoming a criminal offense.
Anyone with information is asked to contact Montreal Police. Well, you may soon be asked by the self-checkout machine at the grocery store if you want to buy a lottery ticket. Lotto Quebec will be testing a pilot project this summer, and it comes on the heels of a record year for the Crown Corporation. So gambling addiction advocates are now voicing their concerns. Matt Gilmore reports.
Lotto Quebec hit the jackpot in 2025, for the first time exceeding $3 billion in total revenues. Roughly half of that will be paid as a dividend to the provincial government. $1.9 billion was paid out to winners, another record for a single year. Now, Lotto Quebec has plans to make the lottery ticket buying process even easier. A summer pilot project will allow some grocery store shoppers to purchase a ticket at the self-checkout. printing the ticket directly onto receipt paper. In a statement, a spokesperson wrote, "The idea is to offer a seamless experience for purchasing certain draw-based lotteries, such as Lotto Max or Lotto 649. But at the Chabad Lifeline Addiction Care Center, the idea is raising concern."
On one hand, it's a brilliant marketing campaign. On the other hand, it's so exploitive because there's going to be a percentage of the population that's like asking if you want crack cocaine or not.
Benjamin Bresinger says cases of gambling addiction have skyrocketed.
I think there's something like 35% increase just in the last year.
He says sports betting apps and advertising are a major factor and warns against making any kind of gambling easier.
That we see here real life consequences of people who started out buying a lotto ticket, very possibly started out buying one lotto ticket, then they bought 4 and 5. But we're missing the point. If we think that the problem is the gambling and the accessibility to gambling, that's not the problem. The problem is what's going on inside of people.
Lotto Quebec declined our request for an interview on this, but in its annual revenue filing said it spent $36 million last year on prevention for problem gambling. Matt Gilmore, CTV News.
It appears a government plan to ban the sale of energy drinks to minors could be blocked by a single M&A. The opposition Liberals and PQ support the CAQ bill, expected to be tabled tomorrow at the National Assembly. There have been growing calls for a ban since a 15-year-old taking ADHD medication died after drinking a Red Bull. A conservative M&A argues the CAQ government is moving too quickly and shouldn't rush to fast-track legislation before the session ends next week. And fast-tracking a bill requires unanimous support from all 4 parties.
We undertake to do this debate on after the election. So we don't want to stop it just for stopping it. We want to stop the bill just because we don't have enough time to make sure that we have a position, the right answer to the right problem.
Blanchette Vézina is a former CAQ minister. She left the party last fall and joined the Conservative Party of Quebec earlier this year. Quebec's strawberry season is off to a late start. Farmers say the cold spring we've had is to blame, but it seems there's a sweet side to the delay. Angela McKenzie has more.
Out in one of her strawberry fields here at Ferme Forget in Laval, Rebecca Lamontagne sees the first berries beginning to appear.
We only grow strawberries that arrives end of June, beginning of July. I think we are like a few days late.
With the cold spring, Quebec strawberry producers are up to 5 days behind schedule. But there's a silver lining. They're getting sweeter berries and plenty of them. Like these, an early variety grown on a neighboring farm.
They're gorgeous. The taste, the quality of the fruit, really, they're gorgeous.
We should be seeing field-grown strawberries in grocery stores by early next week, says Jasmine Sauvé, General Manager of the Quebec Strawberry Growers Association.
When the spring is cool, it gives the time to the fruit to develop their sugar and their sweetness slowly, which typically will produce fruits that are a little bit more sweet than the usual.
Quebec strawberry industry has more than 350 growers, and the vast majority of the berries are sold within Quebec. Hail caused minor damage at Ferme Forget, but some farms were hit much harder. Sauvé says increasingly, climate change is making the growing season unpredictable.
Either there's too much rain, it's too cold, it's too warm, so it's hard to have a standard season right now.
That's why many family farms like this one produce a variety of crops to get them through the year.
If there's a frost and then we lose all our strawberries, well, we gotta have raspberries and squash and pumpkins.
But their strawberries are a sweet favorite, and in a few weeks' time, these fields will be filled with fruit and families.
They like to just come in the field and eat some and have the juice.
Satisfying cravings for a sweet taste of summer. Angela McKenzie, CTV News.
Quebec's Maxime Crépeau will be Canada's starting goalkeeper at the FIFA World Cup. Canada's coach, Jesse Marsh, chose Crépeau over Dane St. Clair. The 32-year-old from Candiac plays for Orlando City in the MLS. Crépeau is also a longtime men's national team member. He missed out on the 2022 World Cup with a broken leg, so starting in goal this time is a dream come true.
I want to say thank you to my teammates and my family, my entourage, everybody that's been through that journey with me. It's something that I'm very proud of, and obviously I don't take anything for granted when I put the jersey on. So it's a moment that I can be extra proud at that moment. So,
Canada's opening World Cup match is against Bosnia next Friday. Coming up, a new strategy for artificial intelligence.
That's AI governed by Canadian values. AI that is accountable to Canadians. AI that serves all Canadians.
The Liberal government unveils an ambitious plan, but could it compromise Canadian jobs? And how Montreal researchers are helping in the fight against Ebola. The federal government has unveiled an ambitious plan for the future of artificial intelligence in this country. They're calling it AI for All, and it forecasts massive economic growth and even job creation. But it leaves many questions unanswered, namely around security. Mike Couture reports.
So this is an AI-driven product.
Artificial intelligence is becoming the norm in a growing number of products and places. It's why the federal government released its strategy to harness the technology while also placing safeguards around it.
That's AI governed by Canadian values. AI that is accountable to Canadians. AI that serves all Canadians.
The broad goals of the plan are to boost AI use in businesses from 12% today to 60% by the year 2034, to build a world-leading supercomputer in order to increase Canada's sovereign infrastructure in 5 years, and to give all Canadians access to free AI literacy training.
Under our strategy, the government will introduce new legislation, regulations and standards to protect your data, your privacy, your children.
So far, there are no timelines for those safeguards. Experts are also concerned about maintaining our digital sovereignty through Canadian-owned and managed data centers and clouds. And some say the government needs to think bigger than this current plan.
850 megawatts, right? That was the proposed scale by 2030 of the sovereign kind of infrastructure build they're looking at. That's less than 1/50th of what the private sector in the United States is expected to have online in 2 years.
There's also a concern over how AI could affect jobs in this country. One estimate from the Conference Board of Canada would see 535,000 jobs created by the year 2045 as a result of AI. But that would be offset by a short-term loss of 555,000 jobs by 2030.
We know that AI targets those jobs, particularly of young people, the ones that are getting into the market. So we've got to make sure that we give them the tools required to overcome that.
The Minister of AI, Evan Solomon, pointed to a Bank of Canada study on the impact of AI, underlining it has not seen any significant job losses yet. But the bank notes that could change as AI use accelerates in this country. Mike Couture, CTV News, Ottawa.
An RCMP officer from Quebec is facing charges for allegedly helping a family member enter Canada illegally. 36-year-old Aaron Bereng of Saint-Jean-sur-Richelieu was arrested for breach of trust and obstruction. The alleged incident dates back to 2024 when he was a Border Patrol officer. He's currently suspended from duty. A group of Montreal researchers are making progress towards developing a medication against Ebola. The team at the Montreal Clinical Research Institute says it has a drug that looks promising. If successful, the medication could be taken to prevent Ebola and to help someone infected. The next step is to go to preclinical studies and test the drug on animals.
We hope that the animal part may be more advanced in the fall when we will test it in Winnipeg with the new test. If it's good in animal, then we can start to look for developing that drug for human.
We are still working on this one, at least one drug is particularly promising. So what you can do is a candidate drug, but we can't say for sure that it is a drug that can be used in human. That will come later on. But all the signs, all the indications are that it is probably a good one.
There is no clear timeline on when the drug could potentially be ready to treat humans. Quebec's metal exports dropped 36% in 2025 because of American tariffs. The statistic comes from a study conducted by the Institut du Québec. Before the trade war, 90% of metals produced in Quebec went to the U.S. market. The study says government investment could help stimulate local demand for steel, aluminum, and copper.
But what we have to be aware of is that the impact of that public spending on our industries in general, not only metal, will depend on the amount of spending that is planned, but also how much of our businesses are able to capture part of those contracts. So that depends.
Diversifying to other markets is helping. Exports to Europe and Asia increased by $1.1 billion, but that doesn't compensate for a $2 billion decrease in exports to the U.S. New inflation data shows Canadians are still feeling the pressure at the grocery store. According to Statistics Canada, food prices jumped 3.5% in April compared to the same month last year. Meat remains one of the biggest contributors to food inflation. Low cattle supplies are a big reason, and the price of coffee is up 20% because of poor harvests and supply chain issues. Still to come, a nuisance for pets and pet owners.
Don't hide in floorboards or in your carpet.
The trouble with getting rid of fleas if you don't deal with the pests bugging your pets. And how two friends rescued a young moose separated from its mother.
Weather brought to you by Gratian Scaff's 50th anniversary gift event. Get a complete second pair and sunglasses as a gift.
Well, it is feeling a lot like summer came a little bit early this year. We had a beautifully warm day and currently still seeing those high temperatures as well. So we're sitting at 27 degrees for the Montreal area. Also seeing the same in Mural right now. We made it up to a high of 28, falling just short of our expected high of 30 degrees for the day, but not far off from that record high. So back in 1963 is when we set that record high at 30.6 degrees, and we are expecting warm temperatures continuing into tonight as well. For this evening, we are looking at a low of 17 along with a few clouds coming in the skies. Expecting to see sun and clouds tomorrow morning too. We'll have a wake-up temperature around 18, and then by afternoon we're looking at 10 degrees warmer. So 28 is once again what we are looking at as our expected high for tomorrow. Also forecasting a hold on those sun and clouds as we head into the afternoon. Now, we do have a mention of some late showers. That isn't expected to come in until later at night. Our futurecast showing us this will happen as winds move over from the southwest. It's going to bring some rain to the Quebec City area before it hits Montreal, and then close to 11 p.m. headed toward midnight is when we are seeing some showers for those of us on the island here. Now, that is looking like roughly 4 millimeters coming in at night. Also forecasting a rainier weekend. So Saturday, we're looking at 12 millimeters, coming in, roughly 3 potentially on Sunday. And then by Monday, we're looking at a return to some sun and clouds, and we should be holding on to that all the way up until next week, Thursday. So there's some good news there. Also seeing those daytime highs on the rise. So we have a temperature of 26 expected as the high on Monday. By next Thursday, we could be at 30, but with the humidity feeling like 35.
A raging wildfire continues to burn out of control in British Columbia. Nearly 24 properties in BC's Caribou region are under evacuation alert. The Swede Creek wildfire, southwest of Prince George, has grown to more than 18 square kilometers. More than 100 firefighters have been deployed alongside several water bombers. Residents are being warned to be ready to leave at a moment's notice. The cause of the fire is still under investigation. Well, flea bites are annoying for pets, and all that scratching can lead to other health problems. But there are ways to keep them at bay. Here's Pat Foran.
Fleas may be tiny, but they can create major problems for your pet.
Once the flea is on them, they start to chew on them, and they can actually cause what's called a hypersensitivity reaction or an allergic reaction to the saliva of the flea.
And once fleas get on your pet, it doesn't take long for them to spread throughout your home.
They'll hide in floorboards or in your carpet,
making it hard to get rid of them. So if you're dealing with fleas, Consumer Reports says it's important to act fast.
Start with your pet. Give them a bath using a mild dish soap, something like a Dawn or whatever you may have, and this will actually drown the fleas. Then you can follow up with a metal flea comb to remove any fleas that might remain in the coat.
Next, focus on your home, vacuum carpets and furniture daily, and wash pet bedding in hot water to help destroy flea eggs and larvae. And don't forget about your yard.
Fleas love humid, shady, grassy areas, so keeping your grass short and keeping the bushes trimmed will make your yard less inviting for them.
Of course, the best way to deal with fleas is to prevent them in the first place. Your veterinarian can recommend a flea and tick treatment that's appropriate for your pet's age and size, whether that's a topical treatment or oral medication. Researchers say it's best to avoid flea collars. Some contain chemicals linked to concerning health risks for pets and even people. Following these steps can help your pet stay flea-free and keep from scratching this summer. Pat Foran, CTV News.
An Ontario man is offering a rare look at the secret life of owls in his backyard. Travis Fortnum has more on the nest and the owlets that are taking their first flight.
In a Windsor backyard, a month-old eastern screech owl works up the courage to leave the nest for the very first time. A monumental step in an owlet's life, one its sibling took earlier this same spring morning. Now it's taking in the world from a nearby branch. Their departure all caught on cameras set up throughout Chris Jacobson's backyard.
I don't think I ever saw an owl before this started, and now I kind of live in the owl house all winter and all through the spring. It's like I'm there.
Jacobson built his first backyard owl house 8 years ago after noticing the birds seemed to love the neighborhood. The cameras came a few years later.
To see exactly what they go through and how they raise their young it's pretty touching.
And now he shares regular video updates through nesting season, offering thousands of people from all over a rare, up-close look at the mysterious birds.
I try to post in the morning, and people get to see that first thing in the morning, and hopefully they see it before all the crazy news that's going on in the world, and it just seems to make their day.
Jacobson says a female owl typically moves into the house in the fall, spending the winter there. Mating season begins in late February. This year, 4 owlets hatched in early May. This one's already left the nest, becoming the 16th young owl to fledge from Jacobson's backyard since he put up that first owl house. With this little guy getting ready to be the 17th, and 2 more still waiting inside.
And then by fall, we'll have another adult here, and it'll start all over again.
For Jacobson, the project has become more than a hobby. It fills his days in retirement, connects him with people across North America, and gives others a chance to start their day with a little wildlife wonder. Travis Fortnum, CTV News.
A moose calf found itself trapped in water south of Calgary until a couple of people stepped in to help. A man out for a walk on his ranch saw the calf stuck in a pond surrounded by deep reeds. He called a friend who rescued it.
As you saw Rob trying to get out of there. So unless you're standing right on top of a root ball, the reeds there, you're plunging down quite a bit. So that little guy he was going to have a hard time getting out of there.
The young moose trotted into the forest where the ranch owner believes it reunited with the mother that was in the area. Just ahead, $3 million robots.
This is a very life-saving technology.
Helping fight cancer in a Canadian first. Plus, a huge display of Canadian pride that's broken a world record. He's a veteran political reporter, a familiar face on TV, and now he's going to be a regular voice on radio. A new show launches tomorrow, The Graham Richardson Show on CJ 8800, Fridays from 12 to 2 p.m. And he joins us now. Graham Richardson, Ottawa Bureau Chief for CTV National News. Good to see you.
Great to see you, Maya.
So, Richard, of course, you're a former anchor on CTV News Ottawa, and you were recently hired as Ottawa Bureau Chief at your old stomping grounds with CTV National News. You were away from the news biz for a little while, so tell us what brought you back.
Maya, I think it's just the story, to be honest. Mr. Trump, Mr. Carney, everything that's happening, a chance to come back to cover politics in this time was just something that I could not pass up that kind of an opportunity. And I think whether it's, what's happening all the time in Quebec, it seems, whether it's the shifts that are happening in the West, I just think we're in a very interesting time for the country for a variety of reasons. And getting a front row seat to try to help explain it to Canadians at the national level was very exciting. And this new show is a part of that in a way on Fridays between 12 and 2.
Well, that's just it. I was going to say, what a time to be covering federal politics. We've got a tough economy, these trade troubles with the U.S., calls for separation. And this time, as you alluded to, those calls aren't just coming from Quebec. So the national unity question, I think, on the federal scene is going to be front and center.
It is very much. And I never pretend to understand Quebec. I asked my colleagues and my friends with much deeper knowledge of your wonderful province to interpret it as an Ontarian. But I have spent 8 years in Alberta, and part of my family is in Alberta. So I think that separation question or question about a separation question, there are similar dynamics, there are different dynamics. On the Quebec side, obviously the French language and the cultural aspect has always been so important. And in many ways, the arguments of the sovereigntists and separatists in Alberta are about wealth and the economy. And so I think there are similarities in terms of the way they believe that their province has been treated by Ottawa, but there are differences in terms of the arguments they're making. So it will be very interesting to see how it plays out. But as you would know and your audience knows, you go down this road, and it can take you places you don't anticipate. So we'll see where it goes on October 19th and what happens afterwards.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens with our provincial election here in the fall as well. Exactly. So tell us, what can listeners expect to hear on your new show?
Look, politics is pretty heavy, Maya. It's a lot going on, right? And so we're going to have some of that. But it is Friday afternoon between 12 and 2 in the East and in Quebec. And so we're going to have some fun, a bit of fun as well. I'll talk about the 5 things that are top of mind to me in terms of the stories of the week and why they caught my attention. But I'm also going to be sort of off the beaten path. We've got a couple of small town local MPs, one from Labrador, one from Moose Jaw, to talk about what's going on in their communities. Tomorrow we're going to be we broke the snowbird story about the grounding of the snowbirds who flew over the Bell Center, of course, during the playoffs and for the F1, which was a fabulous display. And this is the last summer for them because they're changing the planes out and there's going to be a gap. So we're talking to an alumni fighter pilot who is fighting that and wants to keep them in the air until the new planes are purchased and trying to get the government to reverse that policy. So it's those kinds of stories that catch my eye that maybe are not banner headlines right now. And the story behind the story, of course, with radio giving us that opportunity to be as expansive as possible.
All right, the Graham Richardson Show launches tomorrow at noon on CJ 8800. Again, great to see you, and looking forward to listening to the show.
Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it, Maya. Take care.
Take care.
Your Health, brought to you by Gratian Scaff's 50th anniversary gift event. Get a complete second pair and sunglasses as a gift.
A hospital in Vancouver is the first in Canada to use robots to help prepare chemotherapy treatments. Kevin Chirac has more now on how the technology is changing how cancer care is delivered.
Meet Vancouver General Hospital's new cancer-fighting robots.
This is a very life-saving technology.
Chiro oncology robots, known as chemo robots, help prepare and assemble treatments for patients. They also reduce exposure for healthcare workers handling hazardous drugs.
It allows us to be much more efficient with our workflow.
The old way, it used to take pharmacy techs about an hour to produce 12 doses of treatment. Now, with the robots, it takes about 40 minutes. Doesn't seem like much, but on a mass scale, makes a big difference.
We are able to speed up our drug delivery process and production by approximately 30% relative to doing it in a manual fashion.
Launched in December, staff say they're proving to be a game changer.
We needed to make sure the accuracy, safety, and timely delivery of our medication. And all these three were met by Chiro Oncology robots.
The $3 million robots are the first in Canada and funded through the VGH and UBC Hospital Foundation's Greater Than Cancer campaign.
It's an important investment.
Angela Chapman, president of the foundation, says technology like this could have a bigger impact down the road.
So making them on demand in the way that they're done by these chemo robots will save money. And we believe that then that will be proof of concept for this to roll out in other locations in BC and, of course, across Canada.
And while errors can happen, staff say they are extremely rare and always caught.
So if there is an unexplained differential in what we expect, like what the robot expects, the robot knows and goes, nope, don't use this drug, redo it.
For now, the robots are focused on leukemia and bone marrow transplant patients. But with demand for cancer care rising, staff say they could help the system keep up.
This is just hopefully the beginning.
Kevin Chirac, CTV News, Vancouver.
Air Canada is trying to ease concerns about fuel shortages ahead of the busy summer travel season. The airline is sending an email to customers saying there's no fuel shortage affecting its operations, including across Europe. The airline adds that it doesn't anticipate any significant impact throughout the summer. Lufthansa also released a statement saying most European airlines are confident there will be no jet fuel shortage.
Business News, brought to you by Oviedo Duluth, supporting families of sick children throughout the month of June.
Lululemon reported earnings after the end of the trading day. Here's Mural Fernandez with more.
The Canadian company keeps its records in American dollars. It reported sales of $2.5 billion for its latest quarter. That's a 4% improvement over last year. But after hours, investors reacted to their 2026 guidance, which the company lowered. It now expects 2026 revenue of about $11 billion. The goal had been about $11.5 billion. The interim CEO says the yoga-wear company is navigating headwinds. Here are the closing numbers for the day. The Canadian dollar is down to 71.92. West Texas Intermediate down close to $3 to 93.04. Western Canadian Select is up to 79.11, and the TSX shot up over 400 points to a new record close of 35,217. Those are your business headlines. I'm Mural Fernandez.
Serena Williams has chosen to partner with a young Canadian star for her return to tennis. 19-year-old Victoria Mboko posted this photo today saying the Queen is back. Mboko and Williams will play in a women's doubles event in the UK. Mboko says Williams is her idol. Williams announced her return to the court earlier this week at the age of 44. With the World Cup just over a week away, support for Canada is flying high in BC. Shannon Patterson on a world record-breaking maple leaf.
The largest Canadian flag ever produced was installed on the cut on Grouse Mountain Tuesday afternoon.
We were looking at something that, showcased our Canadian pride as the World Cup came to Vancouver.
We were originally planning on putting the flag horizontally across so that it could face the city, and then he said, just out of curiosity, what would it take to break the world record?
When Grouse learned there was a chance to break the Guinness World Record for largest flag unfurled on a mountain,
we made it 160 by 80 meters, and the flag is so big that we had to tilt it up onto its side just to fit onto the cut.
Producing a flag this big is no easy task.
It was 20 days of printing it nonstop. It's 60 panels, and then we had to sew all of the panels together.
100 people helped install the giant flag, which is held in place with airplane cables and a dozen solid concrete blocks.
We carried it down the lengthwise of the hill, attached it to the cable, and then the whole team pulled it out at once. It was actually a remarkably smooth installation process.
I just saw it from my plane when I arrived yesterday, so was my first step to confirm this is the largest flag unfurled on a mountain.
After taking exact measurements, on Wednesday, a Guinness World Record adjudicator made it official.
Now you are officially amazing.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you so much, Suzanne.
Congratulations.
I cannot believe this.
You made it. This is a new record title.
I grew up on Grouse Mountain. I've been coming up here since I was a tiny little kid. To get this opportunity to do this for our city during the FIFA World Cup while the world's eyes are on our beautiful city means everything to me.
The flag will remain in place at least through Canada Day.
When the flag is removed from Grouse Mountain, the material will not go to waste. It's being donated to charity.
And they make quilts and bags as well, so we'll donate the material to them.
And they'll make something out of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the legacy continues.
Shannon Patterson, CTV News, North Vancouver.
Mount Royal's famous cross will go dark for about a year as it undergoes a major restoration. The nearly 34-meter-tall illuminated structure needs to be completely rewired, and its base needs some work. So at a cost of $3.7 million, the work will begin this fall and continue into 2027 or possibly even 2028. A facelift of sorts to make sure Montreal's cross remains a symbol of the city's identity. The cross is now just over 100 years old. Music lovers will be happy to hear that the popular Québécois music video channel Musique Plus is returning. But there's a catch, it won't be on the airwaves.
Musique Plus, la télé de l'heure.
TikTok announced this week that the pop culture and music channel will be back via the social media app. Musique Plus on TikTok promises to feature a new generation of VJs and creators with the goal of showcasing Quebec artists. The relaunch of Musique Plus on TikTok begins next Thursday. Up next, making way for new murals on Saint-Laurent Boulevard.
Stay with us. We've got another full night of great shows for you right here tonight on CTV.
Download the CTV News app and stay on top of local stories as they unfold.
Increasing number of abandoned buildings.
Customize your feed and watch live wherever you are. CTVMontreal.ca, your home for news.
It's a sure sign of the summer season. Saint-Laurent Boulevard is closed to traffic from Sherbrooke to Mount Royal and open to the Mural Festival. Christine Long was there today.
All along the main, shops, kiosks, and stages are being set up. Festival season is kicking into high gear here. For 10 days, Saint-Laurent Boulevard is open to pedestrians for a 2-kilometer street party.
So a big, block party?
The 14th edition of the Mural Festival means blank walls are being filled with creativity. The artists who gave us Meme La Main are already working on a bigger, manga-inspired comic book adventure scene.
We decided to do a kind of a comic strip book, like a book with an adventure character and everything like that.
With a brush, Zek is working acrylic paint into the cracks and crevices of an old wall to create a whole new vista. Spray paint will be layered on later, as this mural will take 2 weeks to complete.
That is more cold colors. The other side will be more warm. So as we get in with the warm color, the cold, there will be a nice mix. I think it's gonna come great.
Visitors along the strip can watch the murals going up in real time.
The people can also enjoy to be part of that creation.
The street festival is free to visit until June 14th, and you never know what you'll see along the Main. Christine Long, CTV News.
Well, those two girls up there on the roof were certainly enjoying today's weather. Anastasia?
Definitely, definitely, and there's more where that came from. If people want to head to the festival, excuse me, for tonight we are looking at a low of 17 degrees. Our normal low sits at 12, so the warmth continues. We're looking at a few clouds in the skies, and then tomorrow morning we'll have a wake-up temperature of 18 degrees, and then there's more after that. We're looking at this bouncing back and forth between sun and cloudy skies, but that'll be as we move our way up to a daytime high of 28 degrees, and with the humidity that could feel more like 31. So pretty similar conditions as what we had today. We are, however, seeing some showers coming in late tomorrow night, so that's going to look like roughly 4 millimeters, and that is expected to continue into Saturday. So we have an 80% chance of roughly 12 millimeters coming on Saturday. That would be with a daytime high of 23. We could see another 3 millimeters on Sunday as well. So reason to make the most of Friday if you can, Maya.
Thanks, Anastasia. And thank you, as always, for tuning in. Have a good evening.